Hey fam, welcome back to the Corner Truth. And if this is your first time joining us, welcome. I am your host, Coach K, mindset life coach and motivational speaker. And tonight I have a special guest joining me. But before we get started, fam, make sure you go ahead and hit like and subscribe. And make sure you throw your thoughts down in the comment section for us tonight. So, without further ado, let's jump into it and introduce my guest tonight, all the way from Brooklyn, New York, Miss Latisha McDougall. Woo! Hey, beautiful.
Hey, and it's
How
Kennard.
Hey, well, McDougall, Kennard, here we go. How are you? Oh, I see. We're going to light up the screen tonight, both with laughter and with our smiles. So, fam, my guest tonight, she holds multiple degrees, but she's very modest about her accolades. And she would like for her story to shine through more so than her accolades. She has been through a lot, or shall I say, she's had a lot of challenges in life, from depression to being overweight to having diabetes to being abused. But she channeled all that to turn it into some positive energy so she can go out there and help the world, come back for the world. And so, a disclaimer tonight, fam, this show is not just for women, it is for anyone who is on a healing journey. So, without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to my guest. Come on, Lady T, what you got for us tonight?
Um, Thank you so much for inviting me to be here. A little bit about my background. I did grow up in Brooklyn. I currently live in New York after having lived in DC, loved DC, but decided to move back to New York City because that's where I felt that this mission would be most important. I have a YouTube channel, and it's about going from trauma to restoration. And that is exactly my story. I grew up in New York City housing, and that environment can be a bit challenging for people. It was challenging for me due to the poverty and instability. During the height of the crack epidemic, my mom unfortunately ended up dealing with drug challenges, which led her to Bedford Hills Prison and, contact with the justice system. My father, who I adore and always will, unfortunately, due to stress and some of the things that he was going through, ended up committing suicide. So my grandmother was the person charged with raising us. And she really did the best that she possibly could, but it was more or less more than 10 kids in the house. It was just her, her background. She didn't have a high school diploma or anything, but that was one of the most hardest working women that I have ever come across. And she instilled in us a love of God, but not much else, not really how to navigate life, how to do things. Her main thing was whatever it was that you were going through in life, you take it to the Lord, and then God will get you through. And I appreciate that, but it was also missing some foundational things that I needed as I began to grow up. Because as you
So
were just saying,
let's go there. So let's talk about some of those foundational things that you were missing that led you to the mission that you're on today.
They say I'm smart. I've always been one for academics. Academics kind of came easy to me. What did not come easy to me was socialization skills and really understanding people and what their nuances were and what they meant to me. For example, when I was in high school, I didn't have many friends. I was Pentecostal growing up, and that kind of led to us being alienated because we wore skirts down to our ankles. We were not allowed to wear makeup. We just looked different than the people that we grew up with. So, my whole life at that point in time was church, church, church. I didn't know much about people and how to navigate them and how to understand what it was, what was expected of me in society, other than being a born again Christian. So that, in a sense, was a crutch to me. I understood academics and how to work hard and, how to get good grades. And I wanted to go to college, and I didn't want to be a part of the problem or the system that I was in. But what I didn't understand was how to navigate people. And I think that led to some poor relationships and poor decision making.
So did that also lead to your battle with depression?
It did. Being
Okay.
a very intelligent person in the environment that I was in led to people picking on me. I remember one time I was coming from the Brooklyn Public Library, and I was so excited to have these books in my hands, and someone came along and they slapped the books out of my hand. And then I ended up getting into an altercation, and this was in my youth. It's just that when you have a lot of people in an ecosystem where they don't get what they need, it often leads to anger, and the light that I had and that I continue to have, people around me didn't necessarily understand. Why is it, she's always smiling, or why is it that, her behavior is not similar to ours, and that led to children really being angry and picking on me. In hindsight, I now understand that they had their own battles to deal with, but it led to a lot of depression. And unfortunately, around when I turned 19, I had enough. That's the way I termed it. And I tried to take my own life, but I have to say God was good and merciful, because
Well,
someone got me to
God.
the hospital. Someone got me to the hospital in just enough time, and they gave me some black chalk, which I can never forget the taste of that. But it allowed me to be able to be here to tell my story.
So thank God for that. I'm glad that you're here and able to share your story. So did the bullying led up to you wanting to commit suicide? And that's one of my questions. And then let's go back. So you said that the children who were bullying you, you said you realized later on in life that they had some issues themselves. And sometimes, people don't like certain people, or they bully them, if you will, in different ways because they see something in other people that they wish they had, but they lack the critical thinking skills or the knowledge or just the articulation to say, they can't identify it. They just know that an individual has something that they wish that they had. So that's one thing. The other thing is, was it that compiled with other things in life that led you at the age of 19 to want to take your own life? And what was the last straw that took you to that
Point.
place?
In answer to your first question, I was a very happy child despite everything that was going on. A lot of that happiness came from music and movement, which is
Hmm.
the later part of my story.
Hmm.
I spent a lot of time in my church choir, and music is just, even now, music heals my soul. It just makes me so happy. And
I love music.
I would often listen to music. And given the environment back then, if you even think about the height of the crack epidemic, a lot of young people that I knew ended up losing their moms and dads, and the level of abuse that children dealt with at that point in time. As a child, you don't really know how to deal with that. And when you see someone else having light and you don't necessarily have that, it is difficult to deal with because, in essence, you're saying to yourself, what is she so happy about? Do you not see where we live? Do you not see what's going on? So it was a lot of that going on. But as I said, I also had the backing of my church. And yes, it was other trauma that led to that. Dealing with my mother was one of the most difficult things that I think I've ever had to deal with. In hindsight, I know now that my mom loved me, but my mother was very, very abusive. So much so that I ended up
Was it
almost dying.
was it
I'm sorry.
physical or was it
It was
physical or
physical.
verbal?
It was physical, a lot of physical, mental, emotional. Um, but I think the thing that hurt the most, as I was saying, was watching my mother outside, dirty, covered in dirt, coming out of abandoned buildings, coming out of drug houses. Kids often made fun of me because of that. I remember one
Mhm.
time I was getting an award at school and I was really, really excited about it. And my mother showed up for the award ceremony and she was covered in dirt. And I think she had been sleeping in an abandoned building or something. And I was just mortified. Even though I wanted her to be there, I didn't want everyone to know that she was my mom. And I didn't want everyone to see her like that. The physical abuse was very, very challenging, but a lot of times my grandmother protected me from those sorts of things. But I
Okay.
grew up with a lot of physical abuse in my home. It did lead to me being depressed, but I think not knowing that I was loved was what really led to me being depressed and having a lot to deal with because during my youth, I never felt like I was important, like I mattered to anybody else.
Hopefully you know
And that was
today
hard for me.
matter. Hmm. So very quickly, I know you said you endured the physical and emotional and mental abuse as a child, and you said that music was healing to you. What other escape arenas that you discover? Like, some children, when they are abused or they feel unwanted, unworthy, they create imaginary friends. They find various ways to escape their trauma. And so, what are some other ways that you found to help keep your joy, or like, did you find yourself like, okay, I'm not worthy, I don't know what to do? And what did you do when you couldn't get to the music to soothe your soul, if you
Run.
will? Okay.
Movement became my saving grace. At one
Mhm.
point, I weighed 350 pounds, and it was due to the depression and the overeating. And one day I went to a gym and I started working out, and I've never looked back. And that was over 20 something years ago. Movement has become the one thing that helped me heal through everything. Movement helped me learn to socialize. Movement is the one thing that I do now. I run, and it's the most enjoyable thing in the world. And when I'm running, I'm praying. And when I'm running, I'm crying. And then when I'm running, I'm healing. Movement not only healed my body, but it healed my soul. And it gave me the outlet that I needed to believe in myself. If you could
Mhm.
go out there and run 10 miles, you will start to believe in yourself. Your brain actively begins to change itself. And what
Mhm.
I wasn't realizing at the point in time when I started moving was that my self esteem was changing at that point in time. When I
Mm.
started running and lifting weights and working out, I noticed a marked change in who I was, that I did not walk with my head held down, that I stopped complaining to myself about who I was and what I looked like, that I
Mhm.
stopped hating the world and I stopped feeling like a victim. I started to feel strong and powerful. And
I love
that
that.
has
I love.
always been God's gift to me. Movement
Mhm.
kept me, even when I would have bouts of depression, when I would start moving and running, whatever was happening in my brain and in my head, it was just the most amazing thing. It changed my entire outlook on life and led me to make the strides that I did in my education and my environment.
So let's talk about the first time you discovered that movement was healing for you. So what did that look like for you? So were you lifting weights, or what made you decide to go out on a run?
The doctor had diagnosed me with type 2 diabetes and I weighed 350 pounds. And I knew I had children at that point in time. And I didn't want to leave them. And I didn't want them to have to take care of me sick because in one episode, my son had to give me insulin in order to keep me from being sick.
Mm.
Someone once said to me, if you lost weight, if you started moving, then you may be able to reverse the type 2 diabetes and not be sick.
Mhm.
And I can distinctly remember the first time I signed up for this gym and I walked in and I was on the elliptical machine, I want to say for about a good 10 minutes. And I was so proud of myself that I went to McDonald's and I got a burger. But
Gross, but okay.
what I learned in that instance was that I had the power over my own body. I
Mhm.
decided what my body did. I was taking ownership of my own body and what it did and where it was going to go and who could touch it and who could not touch it. And
Mhm.
that moment, that small 10 minutes in that gym was the most freeing experience that I think I've ever had. And then I went back the next day and the next day. And I have just continued to go back and continue to move. And it's the
Okay.
one thing that God has given me that's never failed me. Movement has never, ever failed me or let me down. There's never been a
So,
point where I've gone to the gym or to work
mhm.
out and I have regretted working out.
Okay. So, how would you say that has helped you in your social life movement?
When I joined the gym, I actually started talking to people because I was spending so much time in the gym that, I started joining fitness classes, group fitness
Mhm.
classes, which was very, very unusual for me because I was very, very leery of people for a long time. As I
Okay.
was a part of these fitness classes, one of the instructors would put us together in groups, and I would groan in my head, like, I do not want to do this. I don't want to be a part of these groups. But that interaction and having to pair off with another person and talking to them eventually helped me to understand that not everybody in the world was out to hurt me. Some people were just doing the same thing that I was doing. They were trying to work their hardest and their best to reshape
Mhm.
their bodies and minds. And lo and behold, I developed friendships in the gym. I
Okay.
developed
Okay.
people that I could trust and talk to,
Mhm.
people who were on the same journey
Stop
as me.
right there. Stop right there. I want to interject right there. You mentioned the word trust. How did you come to trust them? So just being paired with someone, trust doesn't just jump off the page, right? So
No,
how did you to build that relationship of trust with people to make you want to move forward? Did that come from you recognizing who you were, recognizing your self-worth? How did you begin to build those trusting relationships?
the first time I used to stare into the window at the gym at the group fitness classes because I was too afraid to go inside. I had the mindset that I was too big, that I wouldn't be able to do it. The exercises looked complex, and I was like, I'm not going in here to embarrass myself. Well,
Mhm.
one day, I don't remember who it was, but someone in the gym, it was one of the instructors or trainers. I do remember who it is. I won't mention her name. She came up to me and she was like, "Come in." And I was like, I'm not sure about this. But she
Mhm.
kept pushing me to come in. As I began to continue to come to those classes, people shed who they are when they're
Mhm.
inside of a group
Mhm.
fitness class. You're all sweaty, you're all working out. It's one goal, it's a commonality. You end up talking to people and you don't even realize that you're talking to them. Besides building my self esteem, being paired with people that I didn't know, people who I ordinarily would have avoided, helped me to understand that humans had a common goal. Whatever
Mhm.
that common goal was in that specific situation, we started to work together. One of the things
Mhm.
that I found to be most mind blowing was after the class was over, we would all work together to put the equipment up. In the beginning, I didn't do that. I would just run out the class because I didn't want to be part of that. But as I started to do what everybody else was doing, putting the equipment up, people started encouraging me. Oh, I'm glad to see you in this class. How you doing? Oh, last week the class was horrible. We almost all passed out. And I noticed that I was building relationships with these people. I noticed that we were all walking to the locker room together. I noticed
Mhm.
that when I came into the gym, people were recognizing me. They would be like, "Hey T, what's up? How you doing? You going to whatever today?" And me looking at them like,
Me?
yeah, I think I'm going. But it was
Mhm.
this slow transition into not even knowing that I was letting down my guard and allowing
Mhm.
people to be part of my life that started to help me to understand.
Cool. All right, let's go back to the commonality. I love that word because you and I've had discussion before, actually kind of like how we met and how we met centered kind of around the book that I have written, Be Who She Is, right? And
Yes.
we've had conversations before about it's easier when we relate to people as human beings rather than trying to pick them apart, put them in a certain category. The commonality is the fact that you are a human being. So on this show, we talk a lot about mental wellness, mental and emotional health. I mean, health. And so one of the ways to help an individual, if you will, or be able to relate is have that understanding that you don't always have to understand them. That is the understanding. You don't always have to understand them. You just have to find that commonality. And that commonality is the fact that we are human beings. And that in itself makes us relatable. I don't have to agree with what it is that you do. You don't have to agree with what it is that I do. But you accept me as a human being, right? And
Yes.
so that's how I feel we began to build relationships. And one of the things you were talking about, you said how you got into that gym to shed some pounds, to lose the weight. I was having a conversation not long ago. One of the things that people don't realize is and I use this analogy, if you have been overweight, when you're suffering with depression or a mental illness, whatever the case may be, you're lacking self esteem, self worth, it's just like being overweight. When you gain weight, you don't gain that weight overnight. It takes time to gain that weight, right? So, in the same way, when you're trying to lose that weight, it doesn't happen overnight. Now, when you have that breakthrough and you get to the goal, the weight goal that you want, because you've had that transformation, it doesn't mean that the work stops.
Oh
You
no.
have to continue to maintain a certain weight, or you have to continue to fight to keep the weight off. And I'm not just talking about the pounds, it can be the
Me
weight
too.
of the world, battling depression. It's a continued battle to keep those weights off you. So, what would you say about that? And what has been your strategy to keep the weight of depression off you besides
Prayer.
prayer and
Prayer.
running and
And reading the yeah. Prayer
Mhm.
and reading the Bible are two things. My relationship with God is not God
I'm
is
losing you a little bit. See, you went a little off. You sound a little
okay.
muffled. You hear me?
My relationship with God is not as if God is so far off and I can't see him. If you look at my YouTube page, you'll see I'm a daughter of the King. I had to
Hmm.
learn that. That was a very, very long journey. And as a daughter of the King, I see God as my father. We laugh, we have conversations. When I'm completely fed up and I can't take it anymore, I tell him. When I'm done and overwhelmed, I tell him. But God has also let people into my life who genuinely love me just as I am. And in
Hmm.
walking with those people, I get to see parts of my father. for instance, I have someone who is very, very kind to me. She's a good friend to me, and
Okay.
she's like a mother figure to me.
Hmm.
And it helped me heal because I did not have that relationship with my mother. So in the
Hmm.
human form, there was no one who really looked like a mom to me. This woman looks like a mom to me. And
Hmm.
I talk to
In
her
what way?
often.
In what way? What way does she look like a mom to you? Is it the way she touches you like a mother? Does she listen to you like
It's
a
her
mother? She a
words. It's her
mother?
words. Yeah,
Hmm.
her words are very soothing. She's very encouraging to me, but also lets me know when I need to be corrected. For a long time, I had major defenses. So, someone trying to correct me would have been a very difficult thing because I didn't trust you. But I've known
Hmm.
her since I was in my youth. And when she corrects me, I still feel good after it's over. I still feel
Right.
love. I still feel affirmed. I still feel appreciated. Like, if I'm going through something, I can call her on the phone. There's no judgment. There is none of that. We have these conversations and she continually prays for me, but her words just, it's
Yeah.
like oil to my soul. It just feels so good and so affirming. It's
I
healing. It
love
truly
that.
is.
I absolutely love that. I'll tell you why, because you said some very key things. You said you allow her to correct you because you trust her, right? And so we can have this. This is why it's important. I mentioned, I believe, a couple of shows back when we were talking about the mental and emotional stability of people post COVID-19. And we were talking about how to walk alongside of people who may need a little help getting up, right? And so the key thing is finding that safe haven with someone that you can go and bare your soul to, someone that you, like you said, can trust to correct you, because everyone can't bring that correction to you. People can tell you all day long what you should do, what you need to do, and if I were you, and all sorts of things. But if I don't trust you, the first thing you're going to get from me is pushback. And then that
Yes.
may look like you don't want to be helped, but that's not the case. That means I don't trust you. I don't
Yeah.
trust you, my feelings. I don't feel safe with you to allow you to correct me. And I
Yes.
don't, that also looks like I'm not safe enough with you to walk away confidently knowing that you're not going to judge me, right? And so we can't get away from people judging us. We cannot. And so when you find that one person that you can bare your soul with, that or two, and you feel very comfortable, and you, even after the correction, it may have stabbed you like a knife, but you still walk away feeling great about that thing. You still walk away feeling valued. You still walk away feeling loved. So how long, or better yet, the better question is, how do you do that for others? Because you said you're on a mission to help other people. How do you walk alongside other people who have been in your shoes, or maybe even had worse challenges than you have?
You have to be able to listen. I remember when I was choosing a career. I am a data scientist. I was choosing a career, and it became very, very important to me to be able to give back. I didn't want to take my skills to corporate America. I wasn't really interested in that. So I ended up working for the government. The
Mhm,
reason for me working for the government was because I could still care about
mhm,
people and what I did and what I do. When I lived in New York City, when I lived in New York City public housing, I would often get up and go running outside right in front of Bushwick Projects where I lived. And young people would come outside and want to run with me because they felt safe. But not only did it make them want to run, we would talk about eating right. We would talk about the things that were happening to them. We would talk about how beautiful they are. I believe in affirming people, and not only affirming them, but giving them the space to be able to say the things that they need to say. And that's not always with words. Sometimes it's with body language. I've been
mhm,
sitting across from people and you can see the weight of the world on them. You can see the heaviness. All it takes is a smile and a kind word. Where I live now, people, they often say to me, I talk to all the dogs and I talk to all the people. That's just me. I'm gonna stop and talk to a dog, but I also talk to the owners. How are you
Mhm.
doing? What's important to you? How are you doing today? Oftentimes, when I was in therapy and we asked that question, did we really want to hear the answer? I do. I'm going to stop and take the time to listen. You may have something important that you want to tell me. If I look at you and how you doing? And I shoot off, you already know I don't care. You already
Mhm.
know I don't want to talk to you.
Mhm.
So I
Mhm.
take the time to talk to people. My kids always say, "Oh my, you always talking to everybody." But that's how I get back. That is one way of getting back because a lot of people don't have anyone to listen to them. And I might run across a young person or older person going through some of the things that I went through. And if I could just stop for 5, 10, 15 minutes and listen, I will do just that. And people tell me lots of things. I've had people that I don't even know cry on my shoulder. And that's
Hmm.
okay too, because I believe that the trauma that I went through and the
Mhm.
restoration that I encountered, I need to share that with people. It needs
Absolutely.
to.
Because it's not just about you at the end of the day, it does become a part of your mission and or ministry, if you will, because it is said that your misery becomes your ministry. And so that's one of the things that you and I both have in common is we have the gift of gab. You can see our smile a mile away. And we do take the time to listen to people. And that doesn't cost you anything. Like you said, most times when people say, "How are you?" they make a mad dash because they really don't care. They're just being cordial. It's just,
Cordial.
I, sometimes I don't even think they're being cordial. It's out of habit. It's like that checkbox. I spoke. What more do you want from me? And then you'll see sometimes people try to open up, and again, it's all about who you trust, having that safe haven. We can't open up to everybody, but a smile is a beautiful thing because it speaks volumes to who the person is, because it can be so warm and so inviting, and that will let others know, hey, maybe this is a safe person, maybe she does really want to listen to me. So beside that point, do you have any ideas of maybe facilitating any types of groups? What does that look like? Would it be females only? People who have suffered with diabetes, or what would that look like for you?
That has been a journey for me because it has been difficult for me to want to tell my story. And for a long time, I kept everything to myself. You would see things here and there on social media, like regarding me running or the different things. But I decided this year, I was like, Lord, I need to tell my story so that other people can heal. This is not about me. This is about other people understanding that, yeah, somebody else has been through what you've been through and they've come out successful on the other side. And the thing that made me realize that was the word resilience.
Okay.
People would always say when they did know my story, they'd be like, oh, wow, you're resilient. Because for a long time, Coach K, I thought anybody could do what I do. If I could get over it, you could get over it. I mean, there
Hmm.
was actual incest in my family that I survived. And I'm like, if I could get over this, everybody else can get over this.
Hmm.
Through therapy, I learned that that is not the case. Some
Hmm.
people cannot without other people telling them their story, without them knowing, hey, I went through this darkness. This person went through this darkness. They survived. They're thriving. Maybe I can do the same thing. So
Hmm.
recently, I submitted for a grant to be able to. One of the things that I want to do more than anything else is to become a fitness instructor, and not some
Okay.
sort of high powered fitness instructor running around the city. I want to teach people yoga in a trauma setting so that they learn how to take back their own power, that they learn
Okay.
how to breathe through anxiety, that they
Mm-hmm.
learn how to turn off that push that won't necessarily go off, where you're hyper vigilant all the time, you're jumping, you can't relax, you really can't, be yourself because you don't trust anybody. And that's because your body has been in trauma and a constant state of protecting yourself since about however long. You have to learn how to turn those things off. I will never forget when I first started working, Coach K. Work was very difficult for me, not because of the work, but because I was super hyper vigilant. If someone
Mm-hmm.
came up behind me, I would jump. If someone touched me, I would jump. If someone
Mm-hmm.
corrected me, it felt like they were just tearing me apart. That's the
Yeah.
part of the dynamic that I'm talking about healing. So, yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
had all of these skills, but I didn't have control of my own mind and body to be able to actively work without my
Yeah.
mind going off into many different directions. And I thank God for therapy, but for those individuals that can't afford that type of therapy, or it's not available to them, there needs to
Mm-hmm.
be someone to help them get their self confidence back, control of their body. The one thing that I love about yoga is you're giving yourself permission to move. As a
Mm-hmm.
person who survived sexual assault, giving myself permission over my
Mm-hmm.
own body became one of the most empowering things I think that I have ever been through, because I
Mm-hmm.
was silenced because of what happened to me. But it was
Yes.
in yoga class
Mm-hmm.
that, the instructor, I heard her speaking, give yourself permission to move, give yourself permission to calm down. You're in a safe place. And I said to myself, I want to be able to do that for other people. That is very important.
I love that. And that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And hopefully in that journey, the first thing you would teach people that it's okay to be safe with yourself. So we have to learn to be safe with ourselves first. And then the other thing is you talk about giving your body permission, right? And when we go through trauma, we experience things in life, even it doesn't even necessarily have to be trauma. It can be words, it can be lies that we have adopted as our truth. What happens is we begin to embody those things. And so when you talk about giving the body permission to move, to do this, to do that, we have to give ourselves permission to release the things that we have embodied. And that looks like shedding the pounds, shedding the weight, because all day long we can make affirmations all day long. But until we embody those affirmations, we will never begin to allow those things to follow through within us, or we will never carry them out. So we have to feel it. You hear people say, I had a client once and I wanted her to say that she was worthy. And I wanted her to say it with power. And she would say, I'm worthy. And I always make them say it like 3 times. Say, I'm worthy. And there was no base. And I had her continue to say it. And I was like, you're not getting this because you don't feel it. If it's not embodied, then it's not going to come out with power. And so, through the things that you want to do and helping people through yoga, hopefully that will be one of the things that they will be able to grasp. First, that it's okay to
Yeah.
be safe with
And
yourself.
understand that that process takes time.
Fun. Yes,
The
absolutely.
process of healing and changing, it takes time. It is not, I didn't get to this point. It's a long time.
Why not a little bit?
Can you hear me?
You're a little. That's better. Yes.
Okay. It takes time. The one thing that I talk about on my YouTube channel is the process of how long it takes. It took
Mm-hmm.
years to be able to do certain things. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I walked into a gym and I lost weight and I did those things by myself. Yeah. But it took time. And the other part of the story was that I gained some of it back and I went back and had to redo some of the work. It is not just the point
Gain
of,
some of the weight back. Is that you gained some of the weight back? Is that what you're saying?
I did.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to go
And
back and
thank you for saying that. Go ahead. You had to go back and
and I
what?
had to go back and redo some of the work. But for me, it was more emotional things that I had to
Mm-hmm.
deal with. Like I leaned on food to be able to process my emotions. And in leaning on food, the first time that I lost weight, I was so concerned with just losing weight and being healthy. I wasn't really dealing with all the emotional things that were occurring or happening to me. That did not happen until I gained some of the weight back, got the diagnosis that the type 2 diabetes had returned, and then I started the process of emotional healing. The first part
Mm-hmm.
was physical, the second part was emotional. And with that
Mm-hmm.
emotion came lots of journaling, lots of writing, lots of letting down my guard. You remember when I met you and letting people in who cared about me and talking
Mm-hmm.
about that. You know, people often, we want sometimes instant results. Trauma did not happen to you instantly, and it is not instant that you're going to get over it, but you
Mm-hmm.
can get over it. And yes, it does take time. I look back
The
now
language.
at
I'm
what were you
sorry. I was
saying?
going to say that's the language that people need to hear. Not because when you don't understand, it's easy for you to throw words out there and say things like, "Well, get over it." You have not walked in my shoes. You can't just tell me to get over it. You can say to me, things like, "How can I help you get over it?" Or getting over it is doable, right? And so I want to go back to what you said. I'm so glad that you mentioned that when you said that at one point you have regained the weight.
Yeah,
And I love the
all
fact
of
that
it,
you,
a
yeah,
significant portion of it. So the first
I
time I
love
lost,
honest about that very quickly because I'm going to tie it into what we were talking about earlier. So when we were saying that it's a process, we didn't gain the weight overnight, so we're not going to lose it overnight. But even when we lose it, there's a battle to maintain that size or to keep the weight off. And so, again, that just ties into when we talk about the emotional weight that people carry. People carry a lot of emotional weight. And because you have that transformation, doesn't mean that those weights don't come back in different areas of your life. So we got to stay on the beaten path, and recognize, but we have to extend ourselves grace, which I'm going to ask you, when you gained your weight back, did you extend yourself grace or did you beat yourself up?
absolutely not. There was no grace. Absolutely not.
Mm-hmm. You
There
beat
was no
yourself
grace.
up?
I looked at myself one day in the mirror and I said, "You're fat again, and this is disgusting." That is basically what I said to myself. But more importantly, I felt that I had led my family down because the type 2 diabetes had returned. And I felt like I was disappointing them, and that was difficult for me to know that I felt like I had let my sons down. My sons are, I love them with, I love them with everything I have. And it was very, very difficult for me to then begin addressing how my trauma impacted me as a parent. That was a
Mm-hmm.
whole separate thing from the trauma of what I went through as a child and then growing up and going to school and, developing into a woman. I had to deal with how my trauma impacted my decisions as a parent. And that
So is
was
that
why,
lesson,
go
was,
ahead.
was that was is that the lesson that you learned from not extending yourself grace, from beating yourself up? Because we never get anywhere from beating ourselves up. So when you beat yourself up from gaining the weight back, what was the lesson that you learned, and what advice would you give others who find themselves in that same situation?
I learned to forgive myself.
Okay.
I remember sitting journaling one day. It was an exercise that my therapist had given me. She said, if you could talk to the little girl in you, what would you tell her? What would you say to little Latisha?
You know I'm smiling, right? Okay.
And I had a conversation with little Latisha and I wrote everything down because sometimes when we're talking, we don't remember everything, but writing things down allows you to go back and reread and revisit those specific situations.
Mhm.
And what stood out to me most was that I said, I'm sorry that I did not protect you, but I
Mm,
couldn't.
mm, mm. I love
And
that.
that's when I started that part of the healing journey and forgiving myself for gaining weight and not beating myself up.
Oh,
It,
that
it,
was good. That was
it,
good. That was good.
it was amazing, because I always felt for a long time that I should have been able to protect myself from the things that I went through. I
Mhm,
couldn't protect myself. And
mhm,
as I grew up, I still had that same guard of protecting myself, which is
mhm,
why, when I would meet people, I had a certain persona, or, someone once said it was like a porcupine type of thing. You see the porcupine, you're interested, but if you get close, the quills are going to poke your hand
mhm,
because
mhm.
porcupines have this natural protectiveness. But the thing
Exactly.
is that when you are protecting yourself from people getting to you, you can't receive love that way. You
Yeah,
can't
you become.
receive anything. You're completely closed off.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I was adding to my trauma by not allowing people to love me.
I want to fight you right now, right? Because I really want to fight you right now because
If not, you
something.
should be happy.
Bring the book because there are going to be excerpts you're going to want to read from your book. And so, fam, for those of you who don't know, I have a book out called Be Who She Is, and it's about getting in touch with the little girl that's inside, who's inside of you, who longs to be introduced to this world. And I love the fact that you talked about, you said what you would say to little T, that you wanted to protect her, but you just couldn't at that time. And so so you went back to the little girl and said, forgive me, in essence, because I wanted to protect you, but I couldn't. What would the little girl say to your adult self today?
She said, I didn't expect you to.
Okay.
She
Okay.
she she didn't expect that. But she also said, look at who we are. Focus on who we are.
Mhm.
Focus on where
Go
we
girl, be who she is. Be who she is.
it,
Hmm.
it you know
Went out a
that,
little.
that that relationship that I have with myself is one of the most important things. And there are still times when I have to talk to little T or little Letitia to
Hmm.
remind her, that Big T is here now. She can handle these things. You can relax.
Okay.
And
Okay.
it's a very, very beautiful thing. And for someone who's been through trauma, it really does help you to heal, to be able to
Okay.
have that and to keep those notes, keep those journals, refer back to them, reread them, because those things become affirmations.
Absolutely.
Affirmations, as you were just talking about, need to be really, really personal. And those
Yes.
things have become affirmations for me.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's good. I love that. So for me, I don't journal like I should. I shouldn't say that I should. I don't journal. I really don't. And people say to me all the time, you should journal. You have a lot. You really should journal. But what I get the most out of is hearing myself. So when I'm going through something and I'm talking it through with someone, or I do like a voice memo, hearing it is very therapeutic for me because I get to analyze, and it's like I'm on the outside watching myself go through the experience. And hearing it, I get a chance to say, okay, you were overreacting, or that wasn't the best decision. And that doesn't always happen when I write it down. So hearing it works for me. And that's why
Well,
talking it out, uh-huh. Go ahead.
no, I was going to say whatever form works. Some people are auditory, some people are visual.
Yep.
I'm a
Yep.
writer.
So people both. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So very quickly, what advice would you offer a male who has gone through similar challenges such as yourself?
You deserve the same grace as a woman. The same grace.
What does that look
Trauma,
like?
trauma
What does
doesn't
that
care
say?
whether you,
Mm-hmm.
okay, trauma doesn't care whether you're a male or a female. And I once had a good male friend of mine tell me that he had been sexually assaulted. And I sat there and I listened and I asked him, what do you need from me? How can I help you? As your
Mm-hmm.
friend and someone who cares, what can I give or what can I not give? Or do you need me to say something or do something? So it really becomes about you asking. And you know what he said to me? He was like, just being able to tell someone and someone not saying, that as a man, I should respond in these specific ways is extremely helpful. A person who has been through trauma or survived trauma, no one gets to tell them how to deal with that. You don't get to say you're a man, buck up, or you're a black woman, you don't feel anything. That is not how you respond to that. You respond with love and kindness and ask them, how can I help you? What do you need from me? Do you need me to just listen? Do you need me to get you a tissue? What do you need from me so that I can be a part of your healing and not a
Mm.
part of your trauma?
Amen. You should have been on this show like 3 weeks ago or a month or so ago. We were talking. That is so profound. That's exactly what people need, and that's how we get to come alongside and help others up. Asking the questions, understanding our audience, knowing our roles in individuals' lives, and just hearing them. And I mentioned a couple of shows back. Then once my brother said to me, sometimes you have to learn to listen in between the lines of what is not being said. And that goes back to what you said earlier during the show was people speak to you with body language. It's not always the words, the body language. And so those are the unspoken lines that you have to read between. You have to watch their body language, understand how they move. Just if anything that we want to understand, we may not understand their trauma, but get an understanding of what their needs are. And I think that's the most imperative thing. Well, Love Bug, before we close out tonight's show, what awesome advice would you give to our listeners tonight who has experienced trauma or who may be having a little difficulty navigating emotionally?
One, I would tell you that movement is really important. And two, find someone that you trust. If you are comfortable with therapy, into therapy, and know that you're not the only person going through whatever it is that you've been through. You are loved, you are
Mhm.
worthy, and you are important, even on the days that you don't even feel like it.
Mhm. Yeah. And one other thing I want you to tell the viewers. So movement is an amazing tool for you, and it sounds like you may have done some research on it and how it
But so
begins to.
is coloring, baking. When I say movement, I don't mean just, being like me. I was surprised, and yes, I have done research on it. I was surprised that baking, the constant pounding from the baking, coloring, it is a brain connection that allows
Mhm.
you to be able to start to heal. Some people use coloring, some people use baking, some people use movement like I do. there is a lot of
Right.
research out there on this, on trauma and different ways or different modalities to begin to heal from it. So, you
Absolutely.
could Google those sorts of things and start to look at the list to see what may jump out at you. You may see, I have a friend, she likes the coloring books with all the numbers in it. That's not my
Hmm.
thing. I don't have patience for that, but that is her thing, and it helps. Sometimes taking a warm bath, there are many ways to deal with what it is that you're going through. And sometimes Googling them and looking them up, you'll get a list of many, many different things. Aromatherapy is so positive and so strong. There's another mind to brain connect when you start to smell things that, like lavender, that are wonderful. So take
Hmm.
the time to Google different modalities and how you can, do what you can to help yourself.
I think what I'm hearing you say, the most important thing is it's whatever it is that stimulates you, healthy wise. Healthy wise. Let's make that
Yes.
clear. So, all right. Well, this has been a fabulous show. I thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. Do tell the viewers again about your YouTube channel and the name of it so that they can follow you as well. I hope to
My
have you on the show again someday soon. And I thank you. Go ahead.
my YouTube channel is called Still Becoming. It's from trauma to restoration. And maybe when I return, then we can talk about my accolades and some of that stuff.
Okay. Sounds like a plan, but in the interim, I want you to get started on that mission and
I
going out.
will.
Next time you come on the show, I want to hear that you got that certification for becoming a trainer.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. All right, fam. This has been another great show with the Corner Truth. I'd like to thank my special guest, Miss Latisha. I'm going to call her McDougall, but she said what? What is it, Latisha?
It's
What?
Kennard.
All right, fam. Until next time, I am Coach K, Mindset Life Coach and Motivational Speaker, and I am out.